Chapter 28. The Hammerstone. The item that Mangloss wanted must have been sitting at the very top of the small chest. It took the Major no more than a few seconds to select it and bring it back to the desk. It was a box. A small, blue patterned box of the type commonly used for protecting small items of jewellery. Once he had sat back down on the edge of the desk, Mangloss offered the box to Race. "What is this?" Race asked as he took the box. "Open it," Mangloss suggested. The box pivoted on a single hinge. It was an easy task for Race to lift the lid and look inside. There, in the box, sitting on a small foam cushion, was a ring made from the finest silver. "You're giving this to me?" "Take it," Mangloss instructed. Race took the ring carefully from the box, looking at it in a quiet reverence. It was a beautiful ring, although perhaps just a little too feminine in its appearance for Race's liking. There was a large cluster of diamonds, each no bigger than about half a carat. These diamonds were scattered in a kind of crushed oval pattern around the main gemstone, a large single amethyst dominating the ring. "I call it the Hammerstone," Mangloss said. "It's pretty," Gagara cooed. She got a little closer to her fiancé so as to get a better look. "The Hammerstone," Race said, recognising the term. "I remember Tyr mentioning that you were creating something for me that you were calling the Hammerstone, but he seemed to think it was a new sword." "No, it's not a sword," Mangloss corrected. "It's so much more. I've been working on this ring pretty much since the day you left. A simple enchanted sword would have taken me a couple of weeks at most." "Go ahead, try it on." Race slipped the ring gently onto his finger, wondering what miraculous effect it would have on his body. Nothing happened. He looked questioningly at the Archmage. "I think it's broken." Not at all," Mangloss responded. "This isn't the sort of ring that starts to work the second you slip it on your finger. You need to think about what you want. This ring will obey the desires of the one wearing it, and react accordingly." "So," Ray said, admiring the ring as it sat on his finger, "what does it actually do?" Mangloss scratched his cheek absently. "Let's start with the amethyst. It's the largest stone, and what it does is probably the most important. You remember that old medallion you used to wear?" "Not really," Race replied. "I don't remember ever wearing a medallion." "Oh," Mangloss stopped short. "I forgot. The thing was designed so you wouldn't know you were wearing it. Anyway, it held your body in the shape of a human, so you would fit in better about the castle." "I remember looking human," Race agreed. "I remember believing that I was human." He glanced almost apologetically at Gagara as he added, "I also remember thinking that there was something wrong with me because I was fascinated by harpies." "Well," Mangloss commented, "the amethyst has that same power to make you look human, only this time you will be in full control of your appearance. Try to imagine yourself as a human now. It shouldn't be too hard. After all, you did spend the first 6 years of your life thinking you were human." Race nodded and thought about being human again. That was all it took. His shape suddenly began to shimmer just a little, as if it was out of phase with itself. Then Race was standing there looking much as he had when he was a young boy, although he did look a couple of years older. He was naked, but that sort of thing didn't bother him anymore. Gagara pulled a bit of a face at his new appearance. "I have to admit, I can see now why humans need to cover themselves with clothes all the time." It was a very strange feeling. Race had gotten used to the idea of being a harpy, and everything felt out of place. His entire body felt wrong. Without his halases, his feet felt awkward, and he found that he was leaning forward towards the nearest desk and having to reach out with his hands to support himself. "Are you all right?" Gagara said anxiously. "I'm fine," Race assured her. "I just need to get used to this kind of body again. These feet are most uncomfortable. It feels like some of my toes are being forced into the wrong position. My wings and tail feel very cramped." "You don't have wings and a tail at the moment," Gagara told him. "I know," Race replied, "but I can still feel them. At least I can speak properly," Race thought to himself. The last time this happened he hadn't been able to get his mouth around the words properly. At least, not until Mangloss had worked his magic. "What do you think?" Mangloss asked. "Very nice," Race replied. He did his best to straighten himself up. Slowly he was getting the idea of being human again, and as uncomfortable as it had been at first, this form was beginning to feel familiar to him. "It's a bit impractical though, I can't walk around the capital naked. Not as a human anyway." "Don't worry about the nudity," Mangloss instructed him. "It shouldn't be an issue, not with this ring." "Not an issue," Race commented. "I'll explain why later," the mage said. "I don't want to get ahead of myself in case I forget something vital. Now, yes, you can use the ring to make yourself look human. You should find this very useful when infiltrating a city like First Town. One thing I did do with this ring though was fix an error I made with Agnar's ring. Oh? Race questioned. Well, to be fair, the mage said, I didn't think of it as an error at the time. You already had your medallion, and the chances of us finding another who might need to wear Agnar's ring in order to hide seemed to be quite tiny. Race looked worriedly at Gagara for a moment. Did that mean the ring was dangerous? He couldn't help wondering if it was safe for her to have the ring. She had nowhere to put the ring, and was playing with it, turning it over and over in her left hand as they chatted. You see, on the night you left us, your sister suggested that we let you have the ring, and let you hide locally, perhaps in Demoth village. It was a nice idea, but it wouldn't have worked. I made the ring for Agnar. I had designed the ring for use only by a female. It wouldn't have worked for you. Race found himself relaxing a little again. What was wrong with the ring wasn't dangerous. This ring will work for me. This ring will work for you. It'll work for Gagara, and it would even work for me. The amethyst contains 4 different forms, male harpy and human forms, and female harpy and human forms. What is more, I made it so anyone can access any of the forms. So I could look female, Race said. Mangloss nodded. I thought it might help. The males of your race tend to stand out a little more than the females. They're rarer, and they don't normally travel, Gagara suggested. Not without the rest of their village, anyway. Exactly, Mangloss said. I thought you might be able to slip through the enemy lines without drawing too much attention to yourself if you were able to hide yourself as a female. You wouldn't get attacked by huntresses who think they can eliminate a rival. Gagara sounded very happy. Quite so, Gagara, Mangloss commented. Also, if you cause too much trouble among the elves, they are less likely to catch up with you if you look the same as any other harpy. The best place to hide a tree is in an orchard, not a cornfield. Sounds like fun, Gagara said, giggling. Go on, let's see what you look like. Race smiled at Gagara and then thought about his new appearance. Once again his body began to shimmer and coalesce into its new form. He was female now, and virtually indistinguishable from any other huntress. Gagara laughed. I think there's something missing. Remember, you are still fundamentally male, Mangloss said. This form will not allow you to give birth to children, or any of the other things usually associated with the female sex. Thank Lammerwalt for that, Gagara joked. She was trying to stifle another laugh. I feel very weird, Race said. Your body isn't used to the idea of being female, Mangloss told him. Feel free to change back. In fact, you should make yourself look human again. This is a very nice ring. I can see it'll be very useful, Race said. For a moment nothing happened, but then his body slowly became male, and then slid through to his human appearance. There seems to be no elven form. Mangloss shrugged. Okay, so I didn't think of everything. Actually, it never occurred to me that you might want to look like an elf. I'm sure it's not important, Race commented. He admired the ring. It was really beautiful, maybe too beautiful. Right then, Mangloss said, scratching his head just above his right ear. I really ought to tell you what the diamonds do as well. For diamonds, Race repeated, checking out the pattern on the ring. What do they do? There are 20 of them, Mangloss explained, and each diamond is like a small dimensional pocket. So basically you can store up to 20 different things in the ring, one for each diamond. Mangloss paused. You know, that's not really a very good description, but I'll explain why as we go along. Now, all you have to do is touch the item you want with your ring hand. As long as there is room, the item will be stored in the ring. You can retrieve the items in much the same way. Just will them into your hand. I took the liberty of adding a few items that I thought you might find useful into the ring to start you off with. Oh, Race commented. I added a sword, for example, Mangloss revealed. Do you still have the sword I gave you over a year ago? I see you don't have it on you. Perhaps you left it in your room. Ray shook his head sadly. It was too beautiful an item. It was taken from me by an elven officer who fancied it for himself. Mangloss nodded. I was afraid something like that might happen when I gave it to you. No matter. The sword in the ring will be more suitable to your needs anyway. Just imagine you're holding a sword in your hand. I mean, you really need to will the sword into your hand. It wasn't difficult for Race to imagine he was wielding the sword. What was surprising was that a moment later his hand seemed to instinctively be grasped around the hilt of a very nice looking blade. It was such a surprise that the sudden weight of the blade almost caused him to drop it. Wow, Race declared. And this is the Hammerstone blade? No, Mangloss replied. That's a sword. It's just a sword. It was made by the Moth Village blacksmith from the finest quality steel, but it is just a sword nevertheless. The ring is called the Hammerstone. This is a night sword, Race said, as he wheeled the blade back into the ring. Quite so, Mangloss replied. I assume it doesn't focus magical power as my other sword did, Race said. It doesn't, Mangloss agreed. To be honest, I didn't see much point in making it do so, when I could give you a proper mage's staff instead, and for no extra weight. A mage's staff? Race said gleefully. My very own mage's staff? How do I, as before, just will it into your hand? Mangloss decreed. Of course, Race said with a grin. A moment later he seemed to pluck a mage's staff out of the air. As with most staves Race had seen in his life, it was about the size of a walking stick, and it had been shod with iron, so that it would make that satisfyingly loud clunk every time it struck the floor. The handle had been intricately designed in silver, cast in the shape of a harpy in flight. It also had black diamonds sunk into each of the 2 eye sockets for added effect. The main body of the staff was made from good quality oak. It's beautiful, Gagara said. It is, Race agreed. Why did you put a harpy on the handle? Race examined the figure and was tempted to name her Gagara, but wasn't sure if his fiancée would be flattered or insulted. Well, Mangloss commented, you know. Race nodded and grinned. Makes me want to go and heal something. Just remember it's not a weapon, Mangloss instructed. You can use it as a club if pushed, but a sword or an axe will cleave right through it and destroy its enchantment. Thank you, Race said as he made the staff vanish. Oh, we're not done yet, the mage replied. I've also included a harpy short bow. When you wheel the bow into your hand, you'll find a quiver of arrows with it. This is another feature of the ring. It's why I said 1 item per pocket was a poor description. You see, you can put more than 1 item into any diamond, but they must be added and removed together. How many arrows? Race asked. 20, Mangloss replied. Neither the bow nor the arrows are in of themselves magical, so you should be able to replenish your arrows whenever you need to. Just fill up the quiver and return it to your ring. I think I'm in love, Race commented. Gagara gave him a funny look. I played with the idea of creating just a single enchanted arrow that would return after every use, but it turned out to be a lot more work than I had bargained for, and in the end it was a waste of my time, as it would have to be normal in every other way. A quiver is better, Race agreed. Mangloss nodded. I wasted a couple of weeks on the arrow and still couldn't get it right. Oh well, Greyforth wasn't exactly keeping me all that busy back in those days. Busy now though, I bet, Race replied. Quite, and I still have 16 pillars to enchant before I go to bed, and then there's the war council. We'd better get on with the next part. Clothing. You remember how you said you were worried about walking around the city naked? Use the top of this desk and wheel the clothing from the ring. There's clothing in the ring, Race exclaimed. This just keeps getting better and better. Race was already standing next to the desk. He placed his hand palm down on the face of the desk and wheeled the clothing onto its surface. A mere moment later, his hand was being forced up from the surface of the desk by the pile of clothing that suddenly appeared under it. Now, put the clothing on, Mangloss instructed. We base the size of the clothing on your old measurements, allowing for a little bit of growth in accordance with how much we thought a harpy would age over a year. With any luck, everything should fit fairly snugly, but if anything is the wrong size, hopefully it's because it's slightly too large rather than too small. Race actually felt a little more embarrassed about getting dressed in front of Gagara than he ever had standing totally naked in front of her. There was just something about it that somehow felt wrong. It didn't help that Gagara stood there watching him with both eyes glued to his human body, her head tilted just slightly to the side. The clothing was actually quite comfortable. It couldn't exactly be described as the clothing of a nobleman, but neither was it that of a peasant. Rather, it was the good quality clothing of a gentleman. There were black leather shoes, comfortable breeches, a silk shirt and a silk neckerchief, with a cotton jacket that even had pockets. There was even a gentleman's velvet hat complete with a blue feather. I feel a little like a peacock, but it's better than walking around naked. Much better, Gagara smirked. At least when you're looking like a human. Race turned and posed for Gagara, placing his hands in his pockets and even swirling for her. What do you really think? I think I'm going to need something similar, Gagara replied. She put Agnar's ring back on and showed him what she meant. She then removed the ring again, showing great relief as she returned to her normal appearance. "We'll have to get you something," Mangloss agreed. "We can store your clothing in the Hammerstone as well. We just need to find you something. I think Alicia is about your size. We should go and talk to her once we're done here." "I wish there was a mirror in here," Race commented. "I'll bet I look ridiculous. Now I guess I'd better get undressed." "Don't," Mangloss stopped him. "Just place your palm on the clothing somewhere, anywhere, and it will return back into the ring. The entire suit will disappear as if it was one item. I've interlaced the weave with a special magical thread, so although the garments are separate, they should all act as one item." "Really?" Race said. He touched his shirt with the palm of his hand and almost instantly his clothing vanished and he was naked again. "Now, will the clothes back again," Mangloss told him. "I want to check something." Race said, unsure. He placed his hand palm down on the desk again and wheeled the clothing back. This time, instead of appearing on the desk beneath his hand, they appeared already in place on his body. "Good," Mangloss said, "that works. I wasn't sure it was going to. Now, unfortunately this gimmick won't work with other clothes, but if you bring them to me, I'll sew a magical thread into them to tie them all together." Race smiled and nodded. He then returned the clothes to the ring again. "Also," Mangloss added, "never summon the clothes unless you have taken human form first. Your wings and tail will rip through the threads like they don't exist." "Is there any danger I could will myself or Gagara into the ring?" Race asked, concerned. "No chance," Mangloss replied. "The ring won't accept any living tissue into it. I don't want to risk the possibility of one of your descendants going mad and imprisoning people in the ring against their will." "Good," Race commented. "Well, I suppose there is a way," Mangloss conceded. He walked over to the painting of the small cottage that was hanging on one of the walls of the room. "If I was to enter this painting, you could place me and the painting into the ring. The painting itself isn't alive, and though I would be in the painting, it would bypass the ring's safeguards." "What if you were to try and leave the painting?" Race asked. "I'd be immediately ejected by the ring and find myself standing beside you. Not a good prospect if you happened to be flying at the time." "I guess not," Race agreed. "So then," Mangloss commented as he unhooked the painting from the wall and placed it face up on the desk. Then he returned to his seat at the edge of the desk and said, "I guess we should push on with the next item. Armour." "Sorry," Race said. "Armour," Mangloss repeated. "I've included a full suit of high-quality plate mail armour in the ring. This armour is good enough for any knight. All you have to do is summon it to the table, get dressed and put it back in the ring as you did with the clothing." Race said doubtfully. "I'm a harpy. I don't wear armour. I rarely wear clothes. Even when I was training with Sir Grant, I never used to wear armour. I don't know how to use armour. I won't be able to walk wearing armour." Mangloss tapped the desk beside him. "Don't worry about that. The armour is designed for wearing while on horseback. You'll look like any other mountain knight in combat." Race shook his head. "I can't see any instance where armour might be of an advantage to me." "I can," Mangloss replied. "Imagine you've been given command of a strike force by your brother. There you are, at the head of a small army waiting to flank the enemy. You are sitting astride a horse waiting for the command to attack so you can lead your soldiers into glory. Now, imagine you're dressed as a gentleman rather than as a knight. The men under your command won't respect you the way they would if you were covered in armour, and some of them might even question your right to lead. You can imagine how they would react if you were to lead them as a harpy instead. The armour isn't for protection, it's there as a symbol of your right to lead." Race sighed. "I guess you're right." He wheeled the armour onto the desk and began to put it on. It was a nice suit of armour, dusky grey in colour and covered in small gold motifs on the shoulders and thighs. The helm had a plume of golden and brown feathers, and the front of the main breastplate, again in gold, was an embossed figure of a harpy, although its pose was more reminiscent of a heraldic griffin. The suit also came with a shield, with a moth coat of arms emblazoned on it. I don't like it," Gagara said. She actually sounded a little concerned, almost scared. "I think I agree," Race replied. He wheeled the entire suit back into the ring. "But I guess it might come in useful sometime." He glanced over to Mangloss. "Anything else?" "I put a bag of coins into the ring," Mangloss explained. Race summoned the money bag from the ring. He opened it and peered inside. Then he pulled out a single golden coin and asked, "Gold?" "Gold," Mangloss confirmed. "I didn't know we had any gold," Race commented. "It's rare," Mangloss admitted. "We have no gold mine in Floth, but we do have floronite. Before the elves grabbed him, One of our spies conducted a reasonable amount of business with a certain elven merchant. The elf no doubt thought he was getting the better deal, because gold, although not plentiful, is a lot more common in elven lands. I like gold, Gagara offered cheerfully. It's a lot of money, Race commented. One piece of gold alone would be worth a small fortune. I've given you 10, Manglos replied, plus a small number of silver coins. We couldn't be sure what you might need out there. The war is likely to have an adverse effect on inflation. As I say, gold is a lot more common in the elven lands than it is here, so it's likely to have less value to the elves anyway. What I'm giving you might sound like a lot now, but soon you may be wishing you had more. I'd give you some florinite if we had any, but when our spy was captured, we lost our entire inventory. Race returned the pouch to the ring. That's 6 items, yes? Yes, Manglos agreed, 6 so far. I have 2 more things for you to put in the ring. 3, once we get your fiancée some clothing for when she looks human. What's next? Race asked. Manglos pointed at the painting of the cottage lying on the desk next to him. I want you to take my cottage with you. You know the words to get in and out, don't you? I do, Race replied, but where will you sleep? I'll manage, Manglos replied. The important thing is that you have a place to sleep and a place to hide if things should turn nasty. What is more, one of you can sleep in the painting while the other wears the ring, should it prove necessary. Ray shrugged his shoulders. He touched the painting just lightly with the palm of his hand, and it vanished. Love that ring, Gagara commented. It's a beautiful ring, Race agreed. Then he looked towards Manglos. I lost my sword because it was such a lovely looking blade. I can imagine a lot of people coveting this ring for its beauty. Might not that prove awkward? Nothing to worry about, Manglos laughed. That, my dear chap, is my crowning achievement. In the same way the ring can be used to make you look human, or even female, the ring can disguise itself. Oh, Race commented. Just will it, Manglos told him. Race looked at the ring and willed it to disguise itself. The effect was immediate. The beautiful silver ring became a mere dull grey in colour, and now looked as if it had been cast from cheap tin. If one of the 20 diamonds and the amethyst were gone from sight, the ring now appeared to be nothing more than a cheap finger decoration. The only thing that stood out about it was the blue glow of magic was still there. It's still magical, Race said. Of course, Manglos replied. It still works exactly as before. Even I can't get rid of the magical glow. I think I prefer it like this, Race said. I don't, Gagara replied. Bring back the pretties. Only those with some talent in magic would notice it, Manglos said. Come on, we still need to add one more item to the mix. Oh? Race exclaimed. What's that? Handsome, Gagara cooed. Then she pleaded, bring back the pretties. Race grinned at her and wheeled the ring back into its gemstone configuration. He then held the stones towards his fiancée so she could see them better. Lovely, she lusted. Manglos in the meantime had walked over to the wall through which they had first entered the room. He looked round at the 2 harpies and seemed to smile to himself. Then he stepped through. Race hurried after him and found him standing next to the sleek black stallion. Your horse, Manglos commented. We've been through this before, Race said. I can fly. I'm not going to be riding a horse. At least not until I get beyond the elven front line. Of course not, Manglos agreed. So put him in your ring. But I thought you said, Race started to protest. Oh, the creature isn't alive, Manglos replied. I think they call it an automaton. It's an enchanted horse, a simulacrum of a horse. I thought you'd be able to tell from the glow. I saw the blue glow, Race admitted. I couldn't see why it was glowing though. Anyway, Manglos said, the horse is magical. Its power reservoir is in the tail, just so you know. You can always change the horse's colour, make it look like the property of a high noble like it does now, or you can change its entire appearance so it wouldn't be out of place if owned by the poorest of peasants. Once again, you just place the palm of your hand against its neck, and you will it. What about a saddle? Race asked. Oh, the saddle, Manglos commented. Yes, I was fiddling with 1 or 2 aspects of the saddle just last night. I think it's still in the cottage. Feel free to go and fetch it. Then you can put it on the horse and place it in the ring as a single item. Race nodded. I guess I'd better retrieve the painting. Manglos didn't seem to hear him. I admit, I did consider giving the horse a mode where it had steaming hooves while it galloped, and would appear to be breathing fire. I thought it might drive fear into the hearts of the enemy. But you didn't, Gagara asked. I felt it might look a bit too melodramatic. It would be just as likely to terrify your allies as it would the enemy, and it would make your boyfriend stand out too much on the battlefield, making him more of a target, Manglos explained. I'm glad you didn't then, Gagara commented. She handed the small ring to Race and said, Can you put that in your new toy? I have no way to carry it. You'll need that ring for when we visit Alicia, Mangloss intoned. Race handed the ring back. Let's go and visit her now. I'm sure she'll have something suitable for you to wear, Mangloss commented. That's good, Gagara replied. A naked woman is not a pretty sight. Mangloss turned to look at Race. You should get on with saddling the horse while we're gone. We shouldn't be longer than half an hour. Okay, Master, Race acknowledged. Then I'd suggest you get under way before Sir Duncan or Sir Fawkes find out where you are. Remember, your mission is to find and protect Jenny in any way you can, short of putting your own life at risk. It's one of the reasons I'm giving you the painting. You can secure her in there and fly back with her if necessary. I thought there had to be more to it than just giving me and Gagara a place to sleep, Race commented. Your parents will also be in the city somewhere. Jenny was expecting your father to be freed just after the wedding, but if the wedding has been called off because of the invasion, he might still be a prisoner. If he is, don't try to rescue him unless the elves actually manage to breach the walls. It's unlikely they ever will. First Town has some outstanding magical defences, and once Fabled or Clamper have activated them, nothing can get in. I understand, Race said. Mangloss beckoned Gagara to follow, but he was still talking to Race. Oh, and stay in touch. We don't want to lose you as well. I'll get you one of my scrying crystals before you leave. I just wish I'd given one to Jenny, but she was only going to the capital to get married. I really didn't think she would need such a thing, and they aren't that easy to make. I'll contact you the moment she's safe, Race replied. He watched Mangloss and Gagara head towards the main entrance to the residency, and then set about summoning the painting from the ring.